of publishers and produced as a military classic. And it says in pages 34 and 35 that between 1 and 1.5 million Armenians were living in Turkey in 1914, and the Armenian nationalists, quote, slaughtered, it doesn't say killed, there's an English word like that, killing. It says slaughtered, killing in a more brutal way. Slaughtered an estimated 120,000 non-Armenians, that is Turks, Kurds, Circassians, and so on, well, mostly Turks, while the Turkish army was preoccupied with mobilization, unquote. This is the initial figure. And it adds that, quote, 2,500 rebels took Van in April 1915 and proclaimed a provisional government, unquote, and that the Armenian forces, quote, resumed control in late 1917, killing perhaps another 50,000 non-Armenians, unquote. Well, there was absolutely no reference. Let's forget about the Ottoman archives, which are very important for an assessment of this controversy. Given this British figure that appeared in the year 2003, that's 5 years ago, and I have a copy of that book, and there was absolutely no reference to any such figure. I'm grieved to conclude, and I lost my respect to the speakers and also to the listeners of that meeting. I would have much prepared, of course, to honor an adversary, as we mutually honored ourselves then and later at Gallipoli, for instance. And the MP from the New South Wales also said the Turks killed the Armenians because, he said, they were Christian and because they were successful. Well, he didn't mention, for instance, that it was the Turks who recognized the Christian Armenian church as an independent religious entity back in 1461, when the Christian world, including the Catholic Church in Rome and the Greek Orthodox Church in Byzantium, outcast them, refused to recognize them even as Christians, because there was a theoretical difference, which according to me does not mean much. The Armenian Church believed in what they call one nature, monophysite, one nature of Christ, whereas the other churches believed in the two natures of Christ. In other words, as a human being and also as the Son of God, and therefore a piece and a part of God himself. But that was an important controversy at that time, theoretically speaking. But the Turks, when they first came into contact with the bulk of the Armenian population in eastern Anatolia, they gave them the right to believe in whatever they want, the right to elect their own representatives, to govern themselves, to use their language, to educate their future generations in any way that they wanted, to participate, to live and do business and participate in social life, and also accept public functions, eventually becoming ministers in the cabinet, ambassadors in the leading European capitals, governors or lieutenant governors, bankers, and so on. They were more well-to-do than the Turks themselves. And nobody intervened with them. There was no mentioning of this particular facts, for instance. And also, that they were successful. But who made them successful? Who allowed them to be successful? An Armenian Nuradugyan was appointed as the Ottoman Minister of Foreign Affairs just 1 year before the outbreak of the First World War. And now there's a tendency to equate Turkish-Armenian relations in 1915 and 16 with the Nazi Holocaust. Do you think that Hitler would have appointed a Jew to the post of the foreign minister in Germany? What kind of a parallelism is that? And also, many other Armenians were appointed as finance ministers